hook for like the first 10 grand of it or something like that, but the insurance company will settle away the rest, and that happened actually at the school district with a janitor a few years back.
Does that make sense?
I've heard from Richard tonight.
Pardon me?
I've heard from Richard.
It is not 4:30 yet.
It is now.
No, it isn't.
I got
Just
4:30.
No. He's probably going by that one.
Got 20 seconds.
Can't like help.
Well, we can't do it without him, so.
I was gonna say, you can't open the meeting if he doesn't show up.
I feel like he coordinated this, just have him walk in right at the minute mark.
He knew it was 4:30, yeah, he was here. He said that.
No, he's late. I always told the girls on my softball team, if you're not early, you're late. Only two ways to be. That didn't help either. So.
But they're moving, no. I had a good friend that was on Sharon time. Sharon was her first name. She was late everywhere. You needed to be, somebody had tickets for something, she'd be an hour and a half late.
Oh my God.
So I learned really quick to give her times ahead of time, so we were always on time.
I can imagine that.
Speaking of which, and I really appreciate those notices, I realize obviously don't make every committee meeting, but it makes it a lot easier for me to follow, so I appreciate that.
Oh, that's fine. You asked to be put on the news media list, you got put on the news media list. You're lonely on there, but you're on it. It's not hard to do. It's not worth.
The village isn't spending 15 grand trying to argue that they shouldn't need to do that.
No, I read that. Choose your
Well, the
battle.
village hasn't got 15 grand.
Yeah. Choose your battle, and that's not the battle I'd choose. And a lot of municipalities have that, because like WSPY, they're on news media lists for everybody that they report on.
Mm-hmm.
The Earlville Post is on Earlville's news media list. Something else for them too.
Yeah, only two organizations around here didn't want to do that, and one of those will probably be resolved fairly shortly, come the end of December, and my hope is that when that one's resolved, I can just say like, do we need to go through this again, or?
think I heard the door shut, so.
You've got good hearing then. I heard it.
What?
You've got good hearing too.
What?
Got the weeks, but
Now Frank has to contain his disappointment.
I'm not disappointed over you, I'm disappointed over Richard.
So we haven't opened the meeting yet.
He's not here, but he was like, I think I heard a door.
The
Somebody's
stupid
here.
yellow ladybugs are all over the place.
they say it's supposed to be 60 on Sunday.
It's better than the mouse that was in the bathroom. He got caught. He did? Yeah.
I got lucky to go to the Bear game and halfway decent weather.
Oh, good.
And Thanksgiving, they say it's going to be in the 30s.
Yeah. But there's none of that evil white stuff, so we're okay.
He certainly didn't forget, did he? You have the phone, you got
Want me
this
to
phone?
text him?
Yeah, text him, see where he's at. You can tell him I told him to text, so he's not mad at you.
It's not Wednesday, so we shouldn't have an excuse.
Where does he live? Subdivision, West Preserve.
So Keith Foster yesterday, he asked if I was still going to these meetings. He's the lawyer for the Kishwaukee Water District. Is it their meeting yesterday?
How long has he been the lawyer for the Kishwaukee district?
I haven't dared ask. I imagine that if I did, they'd say, I don't know, we can't find a contract from when that all started.
No problem.
Did they get their engineering back yet for the new sewer line, the Waterman?
I think they are still working on part of that. Like, they've obviously got the designs done, but they're proceeding with some of the other mechanics of that. So, for example, where they're going to run the line from Waterman to the state park is going to require easements probably from several private property owners, as well as possibly some easements from Clinton Township and other property owners in Clinton Township. And so they are working on figuring that all out and basically getting all of the permission they need. And I imagine engineering then will come after that, because if, for example, there's someone that just says absolutely not no, they may have to engineer like a different route or something like that.
They didn't have any cost estimates for that then? Remember?
Okay. Good evening.
Now we're waiting for Richard for some reason, so
He hasn't responded.
we can't open the meeting without Richard, so. Committee meeting.
Oh? Well, I made it here as quick as I could anyway.
Well, that's nice of you.
I tried.
Maybe he had a flat tire.
How many people are on the finance committee?
2 right now.
2 so far. agree by the end of the night.
Probably in line waiting for turkey supper, I don't know.
And that.
Okay, thank you. Bye. He's en route.
Have you considered adopting an ordinance to find trustees that don't make it to these committees?
No, I'm not in favor of that.
That's been done before.
Heard a story or two about that.
We're just all here to get along, aren't we?
You don't get paid to be on a finance, or on a committee meeting, but if you don't show up, yeah, you're gonna get fined. That made a lot of sense.
That would be resignation time, is what that would be.
That would be your indentured servant at that point in time.
See, you wouldn't wanna be you.
It's one way for the city to make money though.
Pardon me?
One way for the city to make some money.
Well,
We do need some revenue.
we do need to look at that. I'm thinking about gambling machines in the, out here in the Public Works building.
Yeah.
That's why we got storage container.
Put a lean, no, just put a lean-to up.
Figure we should probably build a casino before someone else gets to it.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could.
Why not?
No, I don't know. There's probably a law against it. What do you think, Wade?
I recall Zeke talking about some regulations in place that you have to get something pretty substantial for anything more than just your bar style type casino. Like you have your usual slot machines, but then like anything that's more full on casino, like, you know, blackjack or poker, that kind of thing, you would need some substantially more prestigious license or something like that would be near impossible to get. That was,
Just open up multiple bars.
I could find it, but it was at the town hall that they did at the library with Brad Fritz. And I know I live streamed that, so I could find a copy of it, but yeah, he clearly knew those sets of laws very well, but he had a very, what seemed like reasonable explanation of why it basically wouldn't be a feasible thing to go beyond your basically minimal level type casino, if that would even be a thing.
Maybe we better think about that. That'd be on you and your committee.
Of course. Where else would it go?
I don't know,
Yeah, I think probably by the end of the night we'll have it all ironed out. We'll have that license within the next hour or so.
you only need it unless you get caught.
That's always true. Yeah.
Well, maybe you have to have an underground source for the machines.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
Oversleep?
Coming back from dinner or movie.
So would your wife have to drive home by herself then?
No, I got her home.
Oh, okay.
I didn't pull over and say get out.
Would we like to call this meeting to order?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do we have any additions to the agenda? No additions to the agenda. Can I get approval of the agenda? Approval. I second that motion you just made. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 4, public comment. Okay. You want any public comment? All right. 5, business. Review/approval of 11/5/2025 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Did you have anything? Okay. Then I will motion to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Alright, B, fund policy review.
Calvin, just for a minute, I'd like to make this meeting open to any of the board members, if it's all right with you, to speak to some of these questions, or just hopefully everybody can get their questions answered.
So the fund policy, the thing in the board packet, Jen, is this our current policy?
This is our current policy.
Okay.
It was actually a template that was provided by the auditor in 2020.
Okay. So, is the idea here, because it has general fund, maximum 6 months operating, is the idea here that you would put anything above 6 months into the internal service fund?
You're asking me, I have no clue.
Okay.
It'd be probably a good auditor question when Jen gets here.
Okay. Richard, do you have any questions or comments about that?
No. I read through it, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me, to have minimum 3 months in the general, maximum 6. I'm just not sure what the intent is as far as what do you do with it, anything that's additional to 6.
Not like a good thought,
Theoretically, we will.
So I guess my one concern is if you look at the balance sheet, we're $35,000 to the negative.
Oh, we're over that.
Well, now we are. That was as of when they
No,
did.
but what else is included in there?
Yeah, at least I know of $20,000 for
More?
the shade structure for
Yeah, so that, would that be, so that'd be
$50,000.
$55,000 in the negative. But how do you, I guess my question to the auditors, how do you keep going forward with the account split, or not split in one balance, so you're able to play the nutshell game, hiding that you're negative? You understand what I'm asking? Because they have that one, there's like 7 different lines in that one
Report.
report.
This one,
How many lines are on that, Jen?
7.
So, okay, so I was right, because when I was reading it, I guess if you keep all those monies together, you never get caught up in wherever you're behind. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
So now, at the time of the audit, you were $35,000 in the general fund to the negative, correct?
Correct.
And everything else was positive. And then if you needed, because of all the 7 lines are lumped together in one account, the water, the sewer, that's supposed to be separate, and those monies are supposed to be kept separate, you keep dragging, and I guess, is that the reason why that's all lumped together? Help me out here, somebody.
I don't know why
I don't get it.
there's monies that are are segregated, so to speak, for water, for sewer, for,
Debt
roads.
reduction grants.
all,
But they're
all that-
calling all those good
it's all,
at the time of audit. They called all those accounts good, but the general fund at the time of audit was negative 35,000, and then the shade structure, well, the $20,000 isn't even, the village's money for the shade structure, so that's another 20 automatically that if it's spent, you're negative that money, right?
Right.
So your 35,000 now is $55,000 to the negative.
No, because the grants will go down from the 32,000 that's reserved in there to a lower number. It won't impact the general fund line.
So even though we were holding the $20,000 in the checking
In the
account,
grant fund.
It's specified under the grant fund.
I think
Oh.
what Mark's getting to is that bottom number.
The total.
That's what you're alluding to, I believe.
yes,
You see that bottom number, you think everything's okay.
okay. And if you look at the top, it's not okay.
And we're basically spending money out of the other funds, even though to cover salaries and things that are coming out of the general fund.
Yep.
I think,
So is that okay? I guess I'm gonna ask.
Well, I mean, what is the only fund that's restricted? Is it the
Motor fuel
Motor
tax?
fuel tax.
motor fuel tax is the only restricted one?
and, well, actually, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, the sewer and water funds are restricted to sewer and water.
And road and bridge.
Road and bridge, yep.
And debt reductions.
Debt reduction. They're all restricted funds, but it appears to me that for quite some time, the money's all mixed up, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting at, 100%.
And I guess that's all right. I'll allude to, it's okay till you get caught maybe,
All right.
but I'm pretty sure that
So,
the EPA might have something to say about.
Well, what's
us
considered
spending.
the enterprise fund?
At the audit though, at the audit, it was the water fund that was negative. So the general fund was fine for the audit. It was after the audit, or at the end of the audit, where they said, wait, this money that went into the general fund was really it was supposed to have gone to the water fund. So it had gone into the reimbursement for,
It got parked in the general fund under liability.
okay, so I guess that leads me to my next question. Now that I've turned the light on what I'm trying to ask. Were we in the negative last year at this time?
in the water fund.
The same amount or more?
$425,000 came out of general to water and took water back to a positive number. Took general to a negative, took water to a positive.
I think it wasn't caught up maybe in the audit last year like it was this year. If you notice, there's been quite a bit of moving around of funds to make the audit correct.
So, how long have you been doing this, Jim?
Well, I inherited treasurer June 1st.
But how long have you been on
I've
the
been
board?
with the village 7 years.
Have we been in the negative all 7 years?
Water was in the negative starting in like 2020. And it was just a case of not clearly understanding, explaining that the money that came in, this $420,000, was reimbursement from IEPA for money we spent out of the water fund paying bills for the Shabbona Road project. So when the money came in, it should have just went into the water fund
Yeah.
to cover those bills. But it got placed into grants, and then there was a conversation about moving it out of grants to water, and it was unknown. I don't know what the whole conversation was, but it ended up parked in the general account under liability.
So
And it was work for last year, so this money didn't exist prior to last fiscal year.
So I guess this leads me to my next question, and everybody can stop me when you want. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of how we're in the negative and how we still function other than pulling money out of, well, you won't pull it out because it's in the same, account. But shouldn't those accounts be separate, especially the ones that motor fuel tax, water, sewer, all that be kept separate?
The problem is that each utility bill, as the utility bills come in, each utility bill is split between water, sewer, garbage, debt reduction,
4 accounts.
and then if they pay extra, then there's unapplied cash. And if there's a late fee, then there's a late fee. So that one, each individual $100 that comes in goes to 6, 7, 8 different
Okay.
places depending on.
So you see why I'm asking, right?
Yes.
If we
Oh, yeah,
had a
I do.
separate account for water and sewer, then every time we have utility bill payments, the treasurer would have to be moving money out of general to other checking accounts. And that is how it was when I first started with the village. And it went away in 2021, I think, or 2020, where it became a combined
Because the
commingled
auditor-
account, because no offense to treasurer, the errors that happen when you have to shift money through accounts is almost worse than anything. Cause it's human error at that point, because if you have multiple checking accounts, your deposits in your system, everything comes in and out, and the way it does, it creates a manual
And now
process.
our software does it automatically. So Jen enters your $100, and Locus, the software that we use, automatically splits it into those different funds.
Okay.
But from a deposit perspective, when you fill out the deposit slip, you would be filling out multiple deposit slips, trying to, and sometimes there's multiple deposits on one slip.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're looking for is the funds balance page to have those dedicated funds taken out of the very end number.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things that's how the sausage is made. I don't care how you make the sausage. But I do wanna see the sausage at the end, how much money there is.
Yeah.
That we can use.
So you mentioned that water and sewer are restricted funds, is that what you said? But based on the auditor, they put water and sewer as an enterprise fund, on what would be almost like a business type account, where you've got those funds coming in. So I don't understand how they could be restricted if it's the closest thing we have to running a business. You see what I'm saying? Because they actually, the audit say it's enterprise funds. And you're to utilize those funds to,
I mean, it depends on what the definition of restricted is. It could just mean that you can't spend
The
the
money.
non-water expenditures out of the water fund,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that
well,
we
because
have a
like,
commingled account, that we can't spend money on a commingled account.
yeah, well, I mean, just like the motor tax, is they're restricted to be for the roads
The
and,
state,
That we have to get approval from IDOT in order to spend it.
right.
Because if we spend it, we have to report to them that we've spent it.
But based on the auditor's stance, they're saying that water and sewer is as close to what the account that we have to like a business type account, which is an enterprise fund.
I added it to the list as the auditor when she gets here.
I think my understanding on water and sewer funds is the EPA looks at that. And I'm not sure how much it is, but they want a certain amount in your funds. They want to know that you can make a repair if you have to.
Right.
And I don't know what the.
And I don't know what that restriction would be, but I could understand that, where you'd have a restricted amount that has to be set aside for certain repairs, future and current.
And as our audit stood with the way we were $475,000 in the red in the water fund, we certainly didn't have that amount of money to make a repair.
Right.
So I think the EPA would be wondering, why don't you have it? And why don't your rates reflect the fact that you don't have that money in the fund? And that's the last thing that I wanna do is raise water and sewer rates.
Right.
We just do it.
So are we still at the, right at $35,000 in the hole?
As of the end of October, we were at the 35,000. We don't have an accurate number for November until we reconcile November.
Okay.
It's based on, of course, revenues that come in and the expenses that go out.
The question because I've been asked by residents of Shabbona, where are we at financially? What's our financial status? Are we in trouble? And one of the concerns I raised at the last finance meeting was, I think as a board, we have to be up and honest with the residents of Shabbona where we stand.
It's public knowledge anyway, they can.
Well, but what had happened, and we had talked about it, is that there were funds put in different accounts that shouldn't have happened. One of my questions was there things that were done illegal or, that, should have been investigated? I was assured that there was not, that there were some mistakes made with, accounts and monies that were placed in different accounts. But I think that we as a board have to be more on top of what's going on with the funds. And I think in prior boards, I don't think they were. I don't think they were informed of what was going on with the money in the village. And I think that's caused part of the problem, is that people did question what was going on. And so I just want assurances, again, this is a fairly new board. I mean, you look right now, there's 5 out of the 6 that, just been on the board this last year, or this year, I should say. And I think we need to make sure that the residents know that we're going to be asking questions and that we're going to try to stay on top of this so that, we have answers for them.
That's why I'm here asking questions.
Right.
And I know that the auditor is gonna answer a lot of these questions, but so it boils down to the grant money turned out to be the red herring in a lot of these numbers, and then a loan payment of what, 82,000?
Per year.
Well,
Oh,
there wasn't a loan payment of 82,000.
well,
That was the miscellaneous.
right, but the 82,000 somehow impacted the rental. That I saw that in the answers.
Yes.
Is that the black,
Hi,
the
how
black
are
and
you?
red?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Looks like I got here just in
Look
time.
at, just in time.
Sorry, I
I
was-
timed it, I heard your door close.
I got here and I ran out of my last meeting, so.
We appreciate you coming.
Yeah, of course, happy to be
Please
here.
introduce yourself. if you
Yes,
would.
I am Jen Martinson. I am one of the partners with Lauterbach and Amon, and have worked with the village for numerous years. Yeah,
Welcome.
happy to be here.
Welcome.
Looks like a lot of new faces then, in what I've seen.
Actually, we're all new.
Yeah.
Everybody,
She's
great.
probably like,
I was
am
gonna
I at
say-
the right meeting?
No,
Who are
I'm
these
Jen.
people?
We've met before.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't met you yet.
Yeah, I'm Angie Dower, the treasurer.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Lots of changes this year. Yeah. So however you guys want to start, if you have specific questions on the answers, if you want to just start overall, kind of where we're at.
Before we go through the print sheet, I'm gonna ask you the questions that they were just
Oh,
asking.
and I have updated. I printed. It's not the nice bound copy yet, because we'll do that when we all agree that we're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we're talking about because of the fact that the general fund is negative,
The cash.
It's our reality.
Yes.
How do you keep going forward with the account splits while it's negative? You know, why are all of the funds in the same account? You got general, grants, water, sewer, they all come out of the same checking account. They're all in one,
Yeah, it's
they're all commingled.
Yep, yeah.
Good.
You're still working with Locust, correct?
Mhm.
In terms of the bank reconciliations, and I know that's been a challenge probably since the beginning of when we
It's
first
pretty
brought
much,
on.
pretty cleaned up now.
Yeah, I
And-
know the bank over the past few years, yeah.
Yeah, and
The
well, even
commingling
as
was-
of this year,
Yeah.
we're pretty well cleaned up with Locust.
Yeah,
So, but the board's asking, you know, why don't we have separate accounts for, cause like water and sewer are restricted funds, they're supposed to be
Mhm.
spent only on water or sewer.
Yeah.
Debt reduction's restricted for water and sewer.
yeah,
Debt reduction, you know, is what, you know, why is it in a commingled account? Why can't we split things up? Angie and I spoke to the fact that then we're manually having to transfer money every time we pay
Mhm.
out water, general sewer, or we take in utility bills, which
yeah,
is a lot of funding that comes in and out
yeah,
4 times a year.
there definitely would be certainly more of a manual process, more manpower needed on the accounting side of things and the tracking and updating and making sure that you know which account it's coming from, where it's going. If you only have the one checking, moving the money, definitely more work administratively on your end to have the separate accounts. You certainly can, that would definitely be a board decision.
So if the board wants to open up additional accounts and move funds into them,
Completely.
it is acceptable.
Yes.
So, I guess I'll question that because,
Oh,
is there,
We're okay.
are you
is
sure?
there
Okay.
something with the computer program that we could do a monthly divide and dump? Like to dump into the other accounts, to make it easier and not have the manpower? Or like at the,
Like behind the scenes in Locust?
yeah, like at the end of the month, we do, or you run the numbers out of the regular checking account where you guys put everything in. And if we were to separate accounts, I'm just throwing this out there, so you can tell me no, whatever. But there's gotta be a computer program or something out there where you say, all right, so we had this much come in for water bills and for, the maintenance. The
Motor fuel tax?
not motor fuel tax, the other one on, the other part of the water bill.
The debt
Oh, the
service
debt
reduction?
Debt reduction. And you say, all right, the percentages, we have this much money, there was this much percentages supposed to be in each account, and it gets split and it gets deposited in the account.
We'd have to ask Locust, cause in the past, when we did when we had two checking accounts, not counting NFT, it's always been in its own.
Mhm.
We had 2 other accounts. And one was just the general fund and road and bridge. And grants would be in there, grants didn't exist at that time. And then the other one was water sewer debt reduction. And the treasurer, every time we paid bills, would have to transfer money from the general account to the water sewer account. Cause you can only cut checks out of one account.
Okay.
So, and then that's the other thing too, is that the employees are all paid, like the public works, some of their pay comes out of water, some of it comes out of sewer, some of it comes.
Okay. So
So,
there's more tied into it than what shows that, and here's the thing, you couldn't do that until you were in the green or in the black until the fund was caught up anyway, so, okay,
so then that is
or the account.
my question is, do we just keep paying things out of the general fund?
So I think it's probably part of a larger analysis to say, you're overspending general fund revenues and why, and what's happening there. Is there something that's maybe being misallocated? Is there, I just think there's maybe opportunity for an analysis of what expenses are coming out and what revenue sources are covering that? Or is it really just the reality of
It's the reality of,
situation.
because monies were placed in the general fund that should have went to the water fund, which had been negative for years,
Yes,
and now it's all been fixed.
right, and so now I
And
think
so
it is,
now our reality
Yeah.
is the general funds that are negative.
yeah, so there's not enough revenue coming in to meet the expenditure of the village. And so, again, I'm just the auditor. I can't make any management recommendations or, sway any decisions. That would probably be where you, as a village, would want to address what changes can you make to the revenue sources coming in. There's some things out of your control, right? Property taxes is one of the things more within your control. So again, I am just the auditor, but that would be the first analysis I would make, is what revenue is coming into the general fund and how can you make an impact on any of those?
Kind of following up on that, the list of questions, that Jen sent you, do you have that?
Yep, I do.
A couple down, or a few down, it's, page 8, first paragraph, with an explanation for all of it. What does transfer out refer to? 125,000 was ARPA funds that were spent in fiscal year 25. How does the transfer out happen, affect village fund accounts? And the response was, as shown on page 34, 125,000 was transferred from the general fund to the waterworks and sewage funds. My question about that is, based on the reports I've seen before that, the amount that we transfer from the general fund to the waterworks and sewage funds is much greater than that. It's like $500,000 or something, 400,000 something. So where's that 125 coming from?
So, without having the detail in front of me, I know that there were two pieces to that. One of it was a net between two funds that are already combined, correct?
Well, I don't know about that. The 400,000 was the reimbursement from the IEPA that got parked in liability in the general account that should have went into the water account. And that, so it got moved with the audit adjustments.
It was 400,000, because that was how much the reimbursement was
Was.
from the IEPA.
Right.
The 125,000 was the ARPA funds were sitting in the general account until March, April. And then they got moved into the water fund because the report had to be filed with the state by March was our date with what we were using those funds for. And the report was filed that they were being used to cover, on the Shabbona Road project, which was a water project. So they got moved. They did not get moved in our system correctly, and the audit fixed that. So that came out of general into water because that's how it was filed, as those funds being used.
Right, so to match where the expenses were.
Essentially, they were
Yep.
grant funds,
Yeah.
and they were parked in the general fund.
Okay, so specifically that 125,
It's just the ARPA funds.
so that was a specific grant then?
Yeah, it was issued, it came out as a result of COVID. It was state funding that was, percentages were given to all municipalities in the state. And 125, whatever it is, was our amount that we got. So it had been sitting in the general fund since we received those monies in 2020, 2021.
And since then, it was designated to be used for water and sewer projects. Technically
And
speaking,
because it was
should be
reported to be used
a
for
resource.
water project, it got moved into the water account.
But it wouldn't have had to have been used for water.
No, but it got
It-
reported that way and accepted.
But it should have went into the general fund probably.
Should have probably been used for Apache, which was a general account expense, and that was all out of pocket.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if there's any way to amend that once it's been filed.
I was getting between what Sydney was finding out and Monica is once it was filed and accepted, you're kind of
It was pretty
stuck.
stuck, yeah. But yeah, it was pretty open-ended before the filings, yeah,
But it's kind of closed out.
unfortunately. And then I think you could do an analysis back over a set period of time in the water and sewer fund and see, were there any other transfers from the general fund to the water and sewer fund that were to help support the water and sewer fund, that weren't restricted type transfers, if that makes sense, so not grant related for a specific project or not utility related. If you could do an analysis of what is in the water sewer fund and find unrestricted revenues, you could transfer them back to the general fund.
when you say unrestricted, how is that, like, who restricts it?
So it would be like grant related, so any grant related, project related,
That you,
essentially the board could have restricted revenues in the past. When you're talking the revenues coming into the water and sewer fund, it is from your residents, and so then the expectation is water and sewer revenue coming in from them is being used on water and sewer, so not necessarily that there's a legal external restriction, but that could also be, a perception challenge you would have to face if you transferred money out of the water and sewer fund.
So would it be considered non-restricted funds if in 2020, I know we're going back in time, the village paid out, did not do any utility bills one quarter, when the shutdown happened?
Mm-hmm.
So, and pretty much at that point, the water fund was already negative, so the general fund would have covered it. So if we figured out how much the water fund was for that, we could transfer from water fund to general,
Yeah,
because it was general fund to start with,
I
that
think
just
if the
went to
board
cover it.
approved it, that you wanted the water fund to pay back the general fund, certainly,
So that would be an example of unrestricted.
Yeah. something that you guys. can
And that
think
would
about.
be what you'd find out if you dove a little deeper into it, I guess.
That would be us digging.
Yeah, that would be something that you guys would have to decide, yeah. Because back then you could have set it up as, an interfund or a due to from, so you could have said, we're gonna do this, the general fund's gonna transfer money to the water fund, but we want the water fund to pay the general fund back, and it would have been sitting up as a liability then in the water fund that you would have just cleared. But that still doesn't mean you can't do it now, if the board decides to do that and approves that.
No. It's just, it's my thought that we need to get the general fund out of the red and into the black,
Yeah,
and so,
especially since we keep spending it out of it, like every month.
well, we have to spend out of it because we pay wages out of it, and
So that's one thing Angie and I can dig into, is how much did we cover out of the general fund for water in 2020?
we need to do, that's what we need to do.
Can I change tracks just a little bit here?
Yeah.
So one of the updates here is page 55. We added a line item for federal grant.
Yes,
So intergovernmental, the total is the same, but then garbage fees changed and miscellaneous changed,
yes.
and our total revenue dropped by like $100,000 and some change. What's the explanation for that?
So there's a few things. So the intergovernmental didn't change because when we went back in, it was being picked up in the total and the line was hidden in the software. So there was an issue with the software printing the federal grant line. So I apologize for that. The total was still correct there. The change in the revenue is two pieces. So I guess I want to maybe start with addressing this piece and the questions first. So as part of the audit process, we provide drafts to be reviewed. And I do feel like the level of review of this is probably the level that we would want to happen. And so I don't know if that's a recommendation of maybe bringing it to the finance committee. I'm not sure if you did that, Jen.
In the future, it will come,
Okay.
in the draft
Yeah.
form will go to the finance.
Because these are
committee.
great questions and they
Because
did,
unfortunately, I was going off the past when it didn't.
yeah.
So,
And
that
I
was
think-
my mistake.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of changes this year, and in our auditing procedures, there's so much, right, that we're gonna catch or not catch or see or not see. It's based on the risk, it's based on materiality, those things. So these are really good questions that then brought things to light that we had to dig into further, because these are the types of questions that we should be getting on the draft. And so with the question related to the utilities increasing significantly, or the revenues increasing significantly for the business type activities, we realized what we received for the accounts receivable from the software, which I know is challenging to go back and print accounts receivables. I'm not trying to point fingers or anything. I just want to make sure I say that first. It's challenging to get reports for accounts receivable. What was provided, I know you went back and forth with the team trying to figure out the right report, ended up being the wrong report. So then the adjustment to your accounts receivable is based on that, which inflated or overstated your revenues. Sorry, that was a long drawn out explanation, but so water, sewer, and garbage, the receivables were overstated, which also then is overstating your revenue. So we made an adjustment from that first draft after further reviewing that to correct that, which is where you saw that decrease in each of those utility revenues.
So on a cash basis, there's no change,
No,
it's just accounts receivable?
it is, it's just accounts receivable.
Okay.
And then
But,
the other piece was
so-
the 81,500.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish your thought on that.
Yeah, so then the 81,500 is a transfer between the general fund and the road and bridge. And I'm looking at Jen just to make sure that I am saying all the right things and the details, but, those two funds roll into the general fund in the report, and that was incorrectly mapped to a revenue and expense. It was inflating your revenues, inflating your expenses, and it should have netted to zero since it was a transfer between the two funds that should have netted out to zero. So that is now removed from expenses and removed from revenues in both sides.
Okay. And going back to the accounts receivable thing, is it just that we had erroneously put stuff in accounts receivable, or I'm not understanding where, like, $100,000 is a lot.
The report was not the right report.
Okay,
So it was related to an audit accrual adjustment that was based on unbilled revenues. Like, I don't know all of your background, so I don't know how detailed you want me to get, but it sounds like you really, like, know the accounting side of things, so it was.
surely not as much as.
It seems like you do, these are great questions. So at the end of each cycle, so you have quarterly billings, correct? And so when we have that, April, May, June billing, the April portion is really related to fiscal year 2025. So then we take that billing register and report back the April wage, or the April revenue to be included in the current year revenue, since it is based on what happened in the fiscal year.
Right.
So that was part of the adjustment. The register that was run, which I know there were a couple back and forth, there were like right dates, wrong numbers, wrong dates, right numbers, was the wrong date and was including more than just a quarter of revenue. So the adjustment was inflated.
Okay, it sounds like what you're telling me then is our total accounts receivable didn't change, but our accounts receivable related to this fiscal year did?
Correct. So the billed accounts receivable, we evaluated two ways. The billed accounts receivable, what your residents truly owe you or are outstanding bills that haven't been paid yet, that's not changed. It's the accrual for the unbilled piece that hasn't been billed yet.
Right.
So it's, again, just from an audit adjustment standpoint. But when you're talking cash basis, no change.
Okay.
The revenue received is the revenue you received.
Okay. And I want to talk about the office rental. Page 56, we had 128,000 in office rental.
Yes, that was where the other side of the 81,500 was sitting. So we removed that.
Okay.
Yep.
How did that get put in office rental?
It was a mapping error. There's a level of human error in where things get mapped, which then is something that caught your eye, so as part of the review.
Okay, and it says this also includes account, whatever that number is, property. And
Correct.
Jen would need to provide detail for what that is. Jen, are you?
I know you talked to Monica today about that account, the property account, Jen.
Yes, it was the title, the closing payments that were made for the two properties that were purchased in 2024. And then
We're gonna have to capitalize.
capitalization was not done on those two properties with the audit.
So that will be a change from this draft, so we'll make sure to get you guys an update with that. There won't be a change unless you wanna map that differently, so this is why I didn't wanna go final, because there's a couple things from your questions too that we can do differently in the report if the board would like. So that would be one, if you guys would like to classify that somewhere else. And then the, page, your capital asset schedules, on page 35, there will be an increase in land for that amount.
Okay. So, to be clear, after that adjustment is made and that property is taken out of this account and capitalized, is our office rental expense going to equal $7,200?
I believe it'll be close to that, yes. So would you want to add another line item here? That would be your guys' decision. So, cause it's a governmental fund, so when it's capitalized, it's not going to be removed from your expenses here. But we can definitely move it out of that account to have it be classified somewhere different.
Yeah, I think we wanna show actual numbers for rental.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cause if you take the property purchases out of that 69.4, it's still way more than we pay in office rental every year.
Out of the 69.4 is the budget, so we'll have to look at what got classified there from your
Or
budget
the
as well.
46.
Yep. So, right, the 46 minus was it 37,000? So I can get back to you with the detail of what makes up those accounts. We have a whole
That'll be
mapping
much
report
closer.
that
I
shows.
did the wrong numbers. That'd be much closer. That'd be $9,000.
Yeah,
for
so
office
it's gotta
rental.
be the office rental plus, another account. And so some of this too is, just how it works, logistically from the software perspective, is things are mapped in accordance with how they've been mapped in the past. And if there's new accounts, that's sometimes where, they could get lumped in with an account that doesn't make sense, and then a review of that is helpful to adjust.
Okay, I apologize maybe for rolling back and following up on the same question. I just wanna make sure that I understand this.
Yeah.
So that property account, like this is all like accrual, right? Like this is not cash basis accounting?
So the government, it is accrual basis accounting. How familiar are you with governmental versus business type funds?
Not very.
Okay. So in the governmental funds, it is the modified accrual, and in your business type funds, it's full accrual. And so the difference is your business type funds should be running like a business, and so you're seeing, do your revenues and expenditures. And sorry, I'm just talking to him. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
That's who you should be talking.
Do your revenues and expenditures, are you making enough in those funds to fully subsidize the business, right? So it's
Right.
those utility billings, it's run like a business. So you have full accrual, you have your capital assets and your debt, and any of those long-term assets, liabilities are booked at a fund level. In your governmental funds, it's more like your day-to-day, how are we paying the bills? So like a checkbook, do we have enough money to pay the bills? So they're not focused on the long-term sustainability, or doesn't need to be subsidized by another fund. It's really revenues and expenses. So in your governmental funds, your long-term assets and liabilities are not on the books at a fund level, because that's not the purpose or the goal. It's more on a short-term basis to say, do we have the money to pay the bills?
And so that's why property would appear here. Because
Yes.
if I'm running a business, generally if I buy property, it's gonna be capitalized, it's not gonna show up on my scheduled expenditures.
And that would happen in your water and sewer fund, which
Okay.
is another one of the questions, and, something like the way the budget looked weird with the $2 million and no expenses for the project, was one of the questions. There is a different way to show that, but that's why you're seeing that there, is because those projects were capitalized, moved to the balance sheet, and they're not in your income statement anymore.
Right. What projects are you referring to?
So which page is this one? The main project that you guys did this year. So on page 59. One of the questions I know is the miscellaneous expense, showing the $2 million budget, which was related to, are you calling it all the beautification project?
Street,
The
downtown.
street.
downtown
Yeah, the downtown
streetscape.
street beautification, yeah. It was related to that, so there was a lot of expenditures in that account. You guys budgeted appropriately to have significant expenditures, and then you're only seeing an actual of $3,000 because those expenses got capitalized into construction in progress. Does that make sense? The difference.
Right, so for the downtown streetscape project, did some of that, like, did some of those assets go in water and sewer?
Some were in water and sewer, and some were in governmental.
Why would downtown streetscape be in water and sewer? It was not water and sewer involved.
That's where the expenses were reported. Any of the expenses that were reported in the water and sewer fund were capitalized in the water and sewer fund, was my understanding.
So that would have been from the Shabbona Road project.
That must be
not from the downtown
The
project.
downtown
Yeah, I
streetscape.
apologize.
Downtown and Apache would be general,
Was general.
and
I
Shabbona
knew there were
Road was water.
significant expenses in each, so it must have been Shabbona Road was in the,
And that was significant, it was $950,000.
yep, and that's, you saw the increase in your construction in progress from that project. And so I did wanna address this page, cause I know that that looks a little weird, right? Like you budgeted 2 million, why? There is a reconciliation we can add if you would like, kind of in line with the same thing with your bond or your IPA or your loan payments. We can do the same thing. The principal is adjusting your liability balance and then it comes off of your income statement. So we can add a reconciliation here to show then this construction, sorry, it wasn't miscellaneous. Construction and equipment, 2 million, and then the actual expenses, and then add a reduction on the other end to say here's what was capitalized, so that it's clear, like the budget comparison. So we can certainly add that for both debt and any assets that get capitalized, if you guys would like to see it that way.
I would like to see it that way, yes.
Anybody else feel strong feelings? Good with that? Okay, so we can add that before the final.
Okay.
And then, I'll get back to you on the office rental, what other, there has to be another expense account sitting in there, what was in there, and then, do you guys just wanna add a line that says property?
Yes, please.
Can I ask what your background is?
I'm a nerd.
Okay, great. No, these are great questions, so.
Well, they're thinking, another thing that was asked is why the auditor puts water sewer as enterprise funds.
Yeah, so that was kind of the business type enterprise funds, proprietary funds are all interchangeable verbiage for that.
So you're treating those differently
Yes.
than you would normal governmental ones.
Correct, yeah,
So the enterprise type, business type account
yeah,
would be water and.
water and sewer, yeah. So that's, I mean, I could go down a whole path of GASB language of why that was required with the difference between your governmental and your business type funds. But then that's kind of the difference I mentioned with like your short-term checking account versus
Right.
long-term running
Right.
business, yep.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And I think you've probably touched on this already, but just
Yeah.
on page 4, under financial highlights, there's a whole bunch of differences.
Yes. Impacted by the journal entry.
Okay, can you kind of touch on why specifically these numbers are different?
Let me see what specifically changed here for better. I did have an extra copy. Do you want? I was like, I thought I printed the right amount, so I apologize. All right, so I know primarily it's gonna be related to, or it ultimately should be all related to the two things we just discussed, the 81,500 that was removed, from both sides, from revenues and expenditures, which that won't impact the net position, because it nets to 0, but would impact your revenue and expenditure numbers. And then the adjustment to the, water, sewer, and garbage and debt reduction receivable, which impacts, all funds, general, water, sewer, all the funds, and your net position in each. Because
Okay,
there's a
so
reduction in revenue.
as far as the net position change, that's entirely attributable to the accounts receivable thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And the 81,500 would not have, so in just the accounts receivable.
Page 6, the current and other assets, all of those numbers are different, but specifically the, under business type activities, is that also?
Yeah, the accounts receivable would have been classified in your current assets.
Do you, what is the adjustment? Like, what's the,
Off the top of the head, I'm not sure, but I can definitely send over the adjusting journal entry if you, did Monica send you the updated journal entries yet, Jen?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I can send that over to you.
okay.
I think she was holding off because we wanted to make sure if there was anything else here.
Okay.
I would assume it is the total difference, because nothing else should have impacted that. But we can definitely get you the journal entry, because it will need to be posted in the software as well.
And, okay, so page 8, we have revenues for government activities totaled $938,000. That was adjusted from 1.04 million. While the cost of all governmental functions totaled 715,866, adjusted from 797. Why is the cost of all governmental functions changing?
So that was that, back to the 81,500 again, that was being reported as a revenue and an expense and should have been netted.
Okay.
So that number's gonna pop up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, apologize for that. That's why when the financial statements change, right, everything in your MD&A then has an update.
So then there's gonna be additional changes to this draft then, is that what you're saying?
Yes, so we'll make sure to get you guys an updated final. I can probably get that to you as soon as tomorrow, now that we cleared up the land piece.
And then we plan on voting on this next meeting, right?
After we get the,
The update, yeah.
get another after we get a final,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's what we would get tomorrow.
Yeah, I should be able to get you the changes that we've talked about so far, at least, no problem. by
So then we
end
can
of
do
day
another finance committee meeting for review before they final it for a board meeting.
Is there, are there any notes that you wanna make to us regarding the updated audit? Anything that we haven't asked that maybe we should have?
Maybe if we wanna talk about your questions on the budget discussion? In the footnote.
Well, why don't you ask her a question about 6 months versus 3 months?
Oh, yeah. So Jen said that our fund balance policy was a recommendation from the auditor. In our fund balance policy, do you have a fund balance policy?
I don't have the policy, but was it a comment? I believe it was. Yeah, funds not in compliance with them, okay?
Let me just make sure we have anything here. So minimum unrestricted fund balance levels, general fund, unrestricted fund balance target should represent no less than 3 months and no more than 6 months of operating expenditures. Balances above the maximum are transferred to other funds or to capital projects at the board discretion. What is the intent there? Like if we have 7 months, where does that 1 month of expenses, like where does that 1 month's worth of money go?
So it doesn't go anywhere, it's more, so the fund balance policy is to say, what does the board feel comfortable in targeting, so it's really just a target, in targeting what your ending fund balance would be, in the general fund specifically, for example, to feel comfortable with future expenses. So typically we would see 3 to 6 months of a target to say, if next year you had no property tax money, no revenues coming in, how much money would you have in fund balance to be able to make it through the year? So it's just having a cushion or a target to say we're anticipating or we're working towards having this level of fund balance.
So
And
it'll
so
still
you
be in the
can-
fund, it's just
Yeah, so there's
in
nothing
addition
that
to
changes from
the
the financial
recommendation
statement
or the
perspective.
reserve, yeah.
It's just a policy and then an awareness that if you're within or outside of the boundaries of the policy that the board has set.
I'm just wondering about the maximum, for the most part. I understand no less than 3 months, but no more than 6 months.
So that was decided by the board at the time, to have those guardrails, and it is pretty common. If you had more than 6 months per se, that might be something you guys would talk about as a group to say, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna build a buffer because we know something is coming? So it's not good or bad, it's not saying if you have more than 6 months that you have to move that money or use that money or transfer that money. But if you have more than 6 months and you're feeling comfortable with that, means it could be a discussion then to the board to say, do we wanna transfer this? Do we wanna use it for a capital project or assign it for future use?
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Or invest it in,
Yeah. To say we're comfortable, we're outside of our policy, we have more fund balance than what we were hoping for, what do we wanna do with this money?
What is the internal service fund? I'm not sure that I understand that.
Where are you seeing the present internal service fund?
It's in our funds.
I have a paper
Okay,
copy.
so this is a template, all encompassing options that, you guys do not have an internal service fund, so this could be
We
updated.
just have a policy that says we should.
That says that you
Okay.
have a, yes.
All right, but what would the purpose of that be?
So an internal service fund, we see it mostly in this space as like a health insurance fund, so where you're, reporting all of your health insurance expenses through that one internal service fund, and then charging the other funds for that service. So you would have, charges for services as a revenue source in there, and that would be then charging the general fund for their portion of health insurance, charging the water and sewer fund for their portion of health insurance, and then managing that in a separate fund.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
And by no means recommend that you go that route. The budget piece, if you wanna chat about that really quick. There was a question related to note 2 with the budgetary information based on some of these bullet points. I will mention that this has been part of the audit report since we first took the village on as a client, so it was in the prior auditor's report. The level of detail here is not necessarily required, so that is, if you guys would like to change what is noted here, some of it is required, some of it is not. We can certainly do that, but that sentence specifically, the budget or appropriation adopted on a cash basis, that could be removed. And there is no, wouldn't necessarily sit here today and say you should change how you're budgeting. So there's, I know it says that it's not on a GAAP basis, and someone's question was, how do we make it on a GAAP basis? It would be, this is really, pointing to a reconciliation that would be in the report to show the cash basis versus the GAAP basis of the budget, not intended to suggest that there's any change that you would need to make in how you're budgeting. If that makes sense. So we can adjust that. That has just always been, something we assumed was village preference to have that much detail here.
Well, we're actually thinking about going from appropriations to budget. So.
Oh, okay. So then this whole section might change. The other piece, the village not budgeting for the MFT fund, again, that's just factual. That's not to say, necessarily anything negative. It's just factual that there is not a budget for the MFT fund. You guys did not have any spending in the MFT fund, so if you're not budgeting for spending and not having spending, then that makes sense. The recommendation that I would have would be maybe to consider including a revenue budget for the MFT fund in your budget. Otherwise, it's not meant to be negative, or it would have been more addressed in the recommendations for the board. Just factual. And if there were any funds you weren't budgeting for, they would be listed in this section.
Well, you're recommending that we do have a concentration risk investment policy?
Yeah, so I do think that there's maybe some opportunity for, an update to the investment policy. There are samples we have, your attorney probably also has maybe some access to samples. And that would be one area that we would say could be added for sure.
Any other questions?
If you were investing in like FDIC insured instrument or T-bills, does the concentration risk thing really apply?
I think that's a great question. Based on the investment activity and the past investment activity of the village, you probably don't have anything that would be in that section, right? Or like a concern for concentration risk. So again, I don't think that's necessarily a requirement. And
What if
you
we
wanna
choose
have
to
the
start
most
doing that
robust-
though? Something,
Yeah, that would be part of having like a robust investment policy.
yeah.
Anybody else have questions, concerns?
So I just wanna make sure we're on the same page then with the changes from today. So we will be adding land to your governmental capital assets, so that will be a change in your government-wide net position. So you will see that as a change when you have the updated draft to your government-wide net position. And then also, on page, I believe it was 34, the capital asset summary will show the increase in your land as well. We will reclass or create a new account for the property expense so that it's separate line item. I'll get back to you on what else is an office rental, so you guys can decide if you wanna also have that as a separate line item to have office rental be strictly office rental. And then we'll add a reconciliation to your page 59 to the water and sewer fund for the debt principal and capital assets that were or expenses that were capitalized. So that's clear.
Okay,
That sound good?
thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
These
you.
are great questions. Thank you for the detailed review, of course. Anything else you guys have for me? And then the next meeting,
Our next regular board meeting is December 18th.
Our next regular board meeting is in 30 minutes, but.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, I thought we got out of it.
the next.
12/18. Okay, so we'll get this updated. I should hopefully be able to get you guys a updated draft by end of day tomorrow with those changes. Get your final stamp of approval before we go final and bind them again. I will need to get you an updated representation letter to sign because we are gonna redate since there were changes. And then I think just because it is an all-new board, to make sure for the presentation to the board, what we typically do, it's very high level, very brief. You guys are gonna know way more detail, obviously, already, but we'll be focused more on the procedures and the opinion, which is of course unmodified. So,
As you can see, this board is gonna be much more involved
yeah, it's
than
fantastic.
previous boards, so.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing.
I do too. These are really great questions, especially coming from a board level, so. Like, you care about your community and the financial statements, and it's great.
We do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jen, I have the box in my trunk.
Oh, awesome. You want me to go move it? My car's locked. I can go in my car.
You gonna get it? You open it up, I'll give it back.
It is a little heavy. Thank you all, it was great meeting you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I'll see you in a few weeks.
Drive safe.
Do you want me to?
I think that pretty well concludes audit review. So last step is 6, adjournment. Do I have a motion to
I
adjourn?
gotta,
My taillights
no,
flashing?
again, I'm gonna raise the issue
Okay.
again. I don't know who's the appropriate person, but I think a statement ought to be made tonight. When we're talking maybe committee reports, whether it's Callan, whether it's Frank. because again, questions have come up about the financial situation of the village. I think there's some confusion out there, and I think as a board, though, we just need to make a statement that we understand that there are some issues and questions out there that we're gonna be addressing, and that this board is gonna be more active in looking at those type of issues. So I just would like to see, again, somebody make that statement tonight.
I feel like we should probably have something written up before we.
You don't mind it? Come on.
I really don't want to wing it, actually.
I think the intent, Jeff, is that, yes, this board will be more active in the financial aspect of the village. So that's the intent we got here, and if we need to write something up for the December meeting, it'd probably be the best way to go, but.
When you get put on the board.
Finance.
Yeah, there you go.
So guess what? We're gonna vote you.
I think that's the intent. I think everybody here wants to.
I just
Be more involved
want, I
in
just
this.
wanna make sure that whether, that it's in the minutes that, we've talked about this and the acknowledgement, because again, I think questions have come up from the previous boards and, about the status of what's going on in the village. And I think there were some things that, again, before I came on the board, there were questions being raised about, trying to put this as delicate as possible, but there were questions being raised about, there were a lot of secret things going on that I think that people questioned and weren't getting answers for. And just one, as a board, I just wanna make it that, we're willing to address issues that come up, and we're gonna try to stay on top of things, and we're not gonna have secrets out there.
I do think, as you can see, the committee that you will be joining
Right.
is not gonna let this stuff get by like it has to.
But I
And
think
that's the
that
thing.
needs to be in the minutes, and that's what needs to be said, so that, I mean, there's a few residents here, but one of the things that's gonna get published is the minutes of the meeting from both the finance as well as the, board meeting tonight, that I would like to see in those minutes that reflect where we stand as a board. That's the only thing I'm saying, that people, I think, need to see that and hear that,
And you will have that reflected in the committee meeting.
I got notes of the committee meeting and whatever's said in the board meeting I'll do. And then also keep in mind that in December, Angie and I will be doing a newsletter that goes out first week of January or so with the utility bill, and we can have the board in December agree upon something that could be inserted into that.
that would be great.
Cause that hits everybody with the utility bill.
I'd just like to make a comment to the board that I made to you earlier today, that, the board, previous to this one, would leave the decisions about financial to the staff and the mayor. The board was, not really involved anywhere near the extent that you guys are involved now. And I think, we're headed in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you. That's all we got, then, 6 adjournment. You get a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn?
I second that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. We got 7 minutes.
We got a few minutes before we gotta go again, so.
Yeah.
If you gotta go now.
Welcome if you can. That's what my dad used to say.